Good afternoon, and welcome to the friends, family, and beloved community in this sanctuary today, and for those who are joining us on Zoom. Whether you're here from near or from far, know that your presence is a blessing in this time of reflection and celebration. My name is Dale Adamson. I am honored to be the celebrant today for this service, where we gather in the spirit of love, remembrance, and sacred community to honor and celebrate the life of Mary Edith Baker, who returned to God's eternal embrace at the age of 90. At the start of our service, some of Mary's favorite pieces of music, all of them movie scores, have been playing. Mary especially loved the last piece, the beautiful Oscar-winning theme from Out of Africa, composed by John Barry. The music is lush, deeply nostalgic, mirroring the central character's journey, one of strength, solitude, and profound connection to the land and to the people. Through many sweeping layers, it carries a sense of grace, depth, and steadfast love, much like Mary herself. Mary had a lot of layers. I don't remember the first time I met Mary. She was a part of my life for over 60 years, a friend, a second mom for sure. How about you? What is your connection to Mary? So today we join when we speak with love about a woman who has touched our lives in so many ways. To avoid the distractions of sounding brass and clanging cymbals, and to be fully present in remembrance, I'd ask you to please silence your electronic devices for the service. Thank you. It is a sacred moment when we stop to bear witness to a person's life and times among us, the difference that Mary's life made, and to reflect on our hope, our wonder, and our collected grief. As we remember Mary, a life well lived, rich with grace, with wisdom, and an unshakable faith, we also bear witness to the enduring truth that God is with us, even in grief, and especially in community. It's a time to create a circle of support for the loved ones here and those online. On behalf of the family, thank you for sharing this moment with us. We are here to support Mary, her husband of 71 years, Ken, who met when they were 13 and 14 years old. Her children, Arlen, who we will hear from later, Scott and Keith. Her grandchildren, Aaron, Rebecca, Claire, and Joyce. Her surviving sister, June, in New Brunswick. One sister by marriage, by Williams, who will share with us later today. Many nieces and nephews, and all those in her community that she embraced with infectious joy and love. As members of Community of Christ, we proclaim that all are called, all are loved, and no one is forgotten. We affirm that Mary's life mattered deeply, both to us and to God who formed her in love from the beginning. Let us now center ourselves. Let our hearts be open. Let our memories be gentle. Let our gathering be filled with the spirit of peace, healing, and gratitude. And may this time together not only bring comfort, but also joy as we give thanks for the gift that Mary was and still is to each of us. Would you pray with me? Loving and eternal God, who creates and recreates us, who laughs with us and weeps with us, who walks with us each step of the way, carrying us when our strength fails. We come before you today in a spirit of both sorrow and gratitude. We grieve the passing of our dear sister Mary, whose presence blessed the lives of her family, her friends, and this community in countless ways. And as we remember and celebrate the life of Mary in this time of loss, we ask for your comforting spirit to surround each person gathered here. Bind up our broken hearts and fill us with the peace that only Christ can give. We thank you for the gift of Mary's life, for the love she shared, the service she offered, and the faith that she lived out every day. May the memories we share today bring comfort, and may your Spirit remind us that death does not have the final word. God of hope, may we feel your presence among us now, guiding us with compassion, uniting us in love as we celebrate a life lived in your light. In the name of Jesus Christ, the living one, we pray. Amen. And now, just before Mary's daughter, Arlen Baker Wixie, brings us the eulogy, you will hear played a beautiful rendition of "The Lord is My Shepherd." This version was actually the theme song from an English sitcom called The Vicar of Dibley. Mary fell in love with both the orchestral setting and the lyrical content of this hymn, based, of course, on Psalm 23. It speaks of trust and comfort in God's guidance and care. Requesting that this hymn be played today, Mary forever had a deep trust in God's presence, and that she would indeed dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Are we on? I'll be right back. My congregation is quite used to me popping up. They make these pulpits for people that are 5'5" and over height. I've never been 5'5", so I need a little help. So here we are. Give me a second here. I would like to say welcome, welcome, welcome to all our family and friends, and for those who are on Zoom, any of Mom's healthcare workers who could not make it here. It has been a long haul, but we are at this point where we are celebrating Mom's graduation, and I'm sure she did it with honors and has moved on. My mother's full name was Mary Edie Baker, and when I was little, I always saw everyone else with like Edith in their name, spell it with an I. And my mother would give me the polite but gentle talk about why it is a Y instead of an I. And so I'm just saying, this is why we look at Edith with a Y. But Mary Edith Baker passed quietly in the Ajax Pickering Hospital at 2:45 a.m. on July 17, 2025. She died of heart failure. Her heart had been weakening for some time, but we didn't know it, and it finally gave out. On my Facebook account, I had written to my friends and acquaintances there, because 5 days before my mother passed, my dear sister-in-law, Ethel White, passed. So this has been doubly hard on me for losing two people in a very short period of time. And my mother and my sister-in-law, Ethel, were very close. They would call each other once a week, twice a week. And so with both of them gone, I'm sure they're having a tea party up there. And who knows? But getting back to my Facebook family and friends, because I run something on there called Blessing Seed Ministries. And I got over 150 comments back. And my co-workers were there that since I've retired, they still keep in touch with me on the Facebook. But I shared my sad news of losing my mother and received many condolences. I got condolences, sorry for your loss, sending hugs and kisses, prayers your way. You and yours are in our thoughts and in our prayers, and sorry for your loss. But there are some highlights I did receive that I wanted to share. First one is, I enjoyed working with your mother. That's a blessing. Some people had a hard time because my mother was a perfectionist. The next one was, she was a force in this world. When something needed to be done, she was up to it. She had great ideas, grand ideas, and was willing to share them. She put her shoulder to the wheel to get things moving. And if you know my mother, this was very true. Nothing was impossible. She would figure out a way to do it. She was always an inspiration to me, and I'm glad she touched so many lives. Your mom was an important to our family as a pillar of strength and courage. She did befriend a lot of people. Anytime it was Christmas or Thanksgiving, you always wondering who was going to be at the table, that mom was kind of hovering with her wing over them to give them encouragement to keep living their lives. She was amazing. She had, and she will have, great memories that live in my mind. Mary was a great lady. Mary was such a kind, loving person. She will be missed by many. Mary was a very dear friend, a woman of many talents. Ken and Mary were always there for us. She was such a caring and compassionate person. She was a shining star in my life. She was amazing. So many fond and great memories. But here is my personal favorite. Wow, what a woman. For those in her immediate family, it was, oh Lord, what is she doing now? Or what has she gotten into herself into now? My mother was kind of a disruptor in a good way, and I will tell you the story of why. She was a pioneer of sorts, a woman before her time. Nothing was impossible. Mary was born November 3rd, 1943, and was the sixth child born to Gertrude and Bertram Williams of a family of 7. Mary was born in Forest Hill, Toronto. However, the family moved up to Owen Sound, and it was a grand place to grow up in. Slow pace, beaches to swim at, lots of activities to do. Mom often told of when it was dinner time at the place up in Owen Sound, you never know who was going to show up at the table to eat because they hosted many guests in their home. Many of the guests were missionaries of the Community of Christ Church, formerly, this is a long name, the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm glad we don't have that anymore. Of which she remained a lifetime member along with her brother Richard, who was younger than her. She started her early years of schooling in Owen Sound. They were a family that was well-to-do, which is why they had all the guests. And it was kind of that time when Great Depression was going on. They did their best to help others in need and host guests in their area who were on business or missionaries. Because of the Depression, they lost their money and had to sell that home and move down to where my great-grandmother, Williams, lived in Toronto, which would have been on Dovercourt. Things got bad for my mom's parents, and they decided to part company and go their separate ways. Most of the older children were married or working or off fighting in World War II. Grandmother Williams would only raise boys, so that left my mother to have to be out and defending for herself. For the first little while, she lived with her sister Ruth, which was the oldest child in the family. And that lasted until her husband was transferred out of Toronto. My mom's next place was to live with a girlfriend so she didn't have to change schools. And they rented her the nice little attic apartment, sort of bed sitting room with a private bathroom. And they made sure that Mom was fed and had her needs met. And it was a good place. She continued going to school, but she didn't have to make new friends, which was a good thing. When Mary was about 13, she went to work as a mother's helper for the Jackson family at their cottage in the Balm Beach area, which is on Georgian Bay. This particular summer, though, a young man, Ken Baker, was also at Balm Beach area, and he was staying at his Aunt Lil's cottage and helping her do some renovations. He met Mary on the beach, and they got to know one another, and the rest is history. When they were 18 and 19 years old, they decided to get married. This would give them both stability. Ken was living with his widower father and was basically on his own, just like Mary was. Mary went to work for the Bell, thanks to both Ken and his father, Fred, who both worked at Bell Canada. Mary was thinking of becoming a nurse. However, the pay at the Bell was the same as if she went into nursing. Then she could start immediately, so that's what she did. This came to an end when their first daughter was born. Mary became a stay-at-home mother, and within 2 to 4 years, there were the two other sons that joined the family, which would be Scott and Keith. My mother had decided that having spring babies would be a good thing. Her reasoning was, if they're born in the spring, that gives them a few months to get their immunity and get some strength and stamina, so when the winter hit, they wouldn't get so sick. Sounds like a good thought. Boy, was she wrong. April 1st, first birthday cake. April 12th, birthday cake. April 16th, birthday cake. April 30th, anniversary, cake. And if that wasn't bad enough, a few days later, it would be May 18th, Dad's birthday cake. We were so caked out, it wasn't even funny. My mom's solution was that whosever birthday it was, they could have the dessert of their choice. That was wonderful. However, whoever was recipient of that particular dessert, they got plunked in the middle of that dessert the candle, because there was no way you were not going to get the candle to blow out and get your birthday wish. Good problem solving? That was my mother. When the last child, which would have been Keith, started school, my mother, being tired of being at home, because she had a regiment where Monday was wash day, Tuesday was dusting, Wednesday she vacuumed the floors, Thursday she kind of washed the tile floors, Friday was baking, Saturday was shopping, of course, Sunday we went to church. And she was kind of tired of that routine. So she took up an opportunity to join the Guild in Arts and Craft community classes. And here she learned to do stenciling, toll painting, paper mache, decoupage, and a few other artsy, crafty things. Excuse me. And while she was doing that, she must have met somebody, because she then had an opportunity to volunteer helping out at the nursery school for mentally retarded children. We would now call them mentally disabled folks now. There was only one nursery school, but a long waiting list. So they decided to find and open up 2 more locations. And that's what they did. Now they needed extra funds to run the nursery schools. And my mom thought things over and decided that they would fundraise for the schools by selling flowers. And this is what they called it, a carnation for a child. And she would have all these flowers in buckets and send out volunteers to stand in plazas and ask people, to donate money and for a carnation to help a child out. I remember doing this because I was never asked, I always got volunteered. And it was very successful. The group's attention came to a problem with the older kids, because when you have a handicap, things are great in place until you're about the age of 16, and then they figure out you're an adult, and everything kind of just drops. And the need was so great that my mom scouted around for a new facility. And actually, she taught this congregation to be that facility. And for the last 30 years, we have supported the older folks with challenging disabilities to come here and learn life-saving skills and how to be social, which a lot of these folks need. And it was known as the Epworth School, and they still do fundraising. If you look on the bulletin board in the sanctuary, you will see their last fundraiser that they ran, a theater troupe group, and I think it was Aladdin. I think so. Anyhow, when that kind of came to an end, my mom moved on and became the toy lady for the Children's Aid Society. And she talked her best friend and neighbor, Ollie Bryan, to join her in this mischief adventure. And that got a little hair-raising upset with some of the AIDS social workers, because they were used to being able to go to the toy room and just raid it for if they needed a gift or something else. The first thing these ladies did was lock the door. So they couldn't raid it, and they went around and they got toys donated, and because it was in a locked room, it meant that the kids who should be getting the toys as gifts then had a better choice of what was in there. And these toys would be handed out for Christmas and birthdays. They did such a good job that both Ollie Bryan and my mother were awarded lifetime memberships in the Children's Aid Society. While all these adventures were going on, Mary was also very involved in her church. She started teaching Sunday school, sang in the choir, helped in bazaars, congregational meals, Christmas programs. Our family ran Happy Time Theater. I don't know if you remember it, but we would show films here, and the neighborhood kids would come in. And the one Saturday, we fundraised for Zioneers and Zion's League. And the next Saturday, we would fundraise for Cubs and Scouts, which also met in the building. And of course, being part of her family, you were not asked, we just were volunteered. And what else did she do? She did run the groups of Zioneers and Zion's League. Mary was then asked to take over the women's department in the church in Ontario. She did it very well and made many roads into what women could do in the church and free up the priesthood members at this time. This led to other areas of service. Along with her brother Richard, whom they both like to get into some mischief, there's some of the stuff they got into. They both helped with the expanding of lay ministries, publishing a monthly newsletter for the branches of the church area, in Toronto, publishing and producing a TV promotion on Vision TV for their fake TV programming. Mary's biggest problem was being a woman before her time. Many of the things that she did that we now appreciate were ruffling some folks' feathers back then, because this was back in the 70s where women weren't supposed to do some of these things. But she didn't care. She went and did them anyhow. Because they were not ready for some of the things Mary and Richard did, it was too futuristic and considered not normal, a normal way of doing things. Remembering this took place in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Many of our modern views that we take for granted now, they were not normal back then and caused many problems. My mother also started working outside the home in the early 70s along with her volunteer work. She worked part-time in the department store of Morgan's in Eglinton Square. She was just getting her feet wet, and she decided that she wanted to work someplace better to get more money and it would give extra money to the family, so she started looking for a better job. Her next job was to be a wards clerk at Scarborough Centenary Hospital. Here she was promoted because she did such good work to being the head of the printing and maintenance department. And she did an excellent job until her retirement. Then, when her retirement, she went to work as a receptionist for Dr. Schenk, a dentist. When Mary finally did retire, she and my dad then decided they wanted to finally move out of the city of Toronto to a quieter place. They found a nice smaller home in Tillsonburg. There they lived a good life for 20 years. Here they attended and helped out at the Corinth branch of Community Christ. In the fall of 2024, Ken and Mary were moved to places in Ajax for health reasons. Mary was placed in a long-term care residence as she had developed dementia and was unable to walk. Ken was moved into a senior's retirement apartment close to where Mom was. Mary is survived by her husband of 71 years, Ken Frederick Baker, her daughter, Margaret Arlen Baker, Wixie, and son Kenneth Scott Baker with wife Kathy, and son William Keith Baker with wife Wanda. Her grandchildren, Aaron Wixie, Becky Wixie Watanabe, and Owen, Claire Baker, and Joyce Baker, along with great-grandchildren, Duncan and Emma Watanabe, along with many nieces and nephews, and one surviving sister, June Williams Sleeman, 97, in Moncton, New Brunswick, and her beloved sister-in-law, Vi Williams. Now in closing, I hope you understand why my personal favorite saying was, "Wow, what a woman."
Now invite Vi Williams, Mary's sister-in-law, to come up and do a poem reading and share some memories.
I was asked to read this poem. Excuse my voice, I have a bit of a cold. To those whom I love and those who love me, when I am gone, release me, let me go. I have so many things to see and do. You must not tie yourself to me with tears. Be happy that we had so many years. I gave you my love, you can only guess how much you gave me in happiness. I thank you for the love you each have shown, but now it is time I travel on alone. So grieve a while for me, if grieve you must, then let your grief be comforted by trust. It's only for a while that we must part, So bless the memories within your heart. I will not be far away, for life goes on. So if you need me, call, and I will come. Though you cannot see or touch me, I will be near. And if you listen with your heart, you will hear all of my love around you soft and clear. Then when you must come this way alone, I will greet you with a smile and a welcome home. I met Mary as a result of marriage. I was very blessed in meeting my husband, Rick, who was the youngest of 7 children. I had 2 older brothers. Rick had 2 older brothers and 4 older sisters. Then I had 4 older brothers and 4 older sisters. Mary was the youngest of the sisters. 7 siblings that loved and cared for each other, their spouses and their children. That's the making of a large family, and one that was only a phone call away. On visiting Mary at her residence, Rick was always on her mind. Arlen and Kathy said that when they visited, she would be talking about him. I would like to believe that he was with her in her hour of need. I have so many great memories of the time spent together. Mary and I played euchre with her neighborhood ladies. In the summer, we were side by side at Willow Trailer Park at Scarborough Beach and sharing with family at Jenny East and Destin, Florida, during the winter months. Ruth wintered in Florida, so we joined her as snowbirds. For Mary, spending time and sharing with her siblings was very important. Mary was our mother hen. She would put effort into arranging a family gathering for all to come. Good food, great conversation, and a lot of laughter. With help from her brothers and sisters and later nieces and nephews, we would gather in their backyard or someone else's home and just enjoy each other's company. When I reflect on Mary, the lyrics to the song Maria, with the sound of music, came to mind. As the nuns sang about the virtues of Maria, I found myself inserting Mary's name into the song. She's a darling, she's a lamb, she's a clown, full of energy. She loved to play games and hold fun parties. I don't know how many of you may remember coming in costume to their home on Common Court to take part in a murder mystery. Another time it was for court whist. Those games were continued on in Florida as well. Everyone enjoyed the evenings planned by Mary. Mary enjoyed playing games after dinner down south. She'd break out the domino set and we'd play a competitive game of Mexican trade. Sometimes you would get to play Ken's favorite, hand and foot, another competitive card game. Plus, there was always a jigsaw puzzle out on the dining room table. The siblings would spend hours picking pieces and eventually finishing the puzzle. It may have been the only time that Mary and her siblings were around a table and quiet at the same time. Mary loved Ken. Mary loved her children. Mary loved her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren. That love extended to her siblings, their families. Her church was also an important part of her life, and she loved her church family here in Toronto. Mary was a friend, a best friend to me and many others. I'm sure Mary will indeed be missed.
Thank you, Vi. Our next hymn, There's an Old, Old Path, held a special place in Mary's heart and the hearts of many Community of Christ members. Originally appearing in early Latter-day Saint hymnals, written by 2 cousins, this hymn for Mary was a reminder that the journey of faith is not walked alone, that many faithful souls have gone before us, lighting the way. If you know this hymn, feel free to harmonize as it's played. now like to invite a good friend of Arlen's, Patricia Pat Latta, to come and share some memories of Mary.
Hello, my name is Pat, and my connection and love for Mary Baker was being a neighbor and, of course, a second mom for me for 60 plus years. And Arland, of course, is my sister friend. Arland and I grew up together in Victoria Village in North York. We attended Skylarks in this very church and other church functions, and hosted many fun-related parties at their home over the years. We took turns, Halloween, Christmas, tobogganing, whatever we could come up with. So we had a good core of friends and family. Mary, or as I would call her, Mrs. Baker, then Aunt Mary, was a true advocate for the underdog and would remind my mother to go easy on us. We were just kids. Mary took painting lessons from my mother with our neighborhood ladies, where we were a community of friends. Mary worked at several different jobs throughout the 60s and 70s, which was unheard of at the time. I think you might have called her a trailblazer. If you ever had a moment to chat with Mary, you would suddenly realize that she had lots to say, especially on history and the lives of all the Williams clan. Thank you, Mary, for having my back when no others did. Moving to Tillsonburg did not affect her involvement with her church, family, and many friends. If they received a call, Ken was ready and able to hit the road with Mary and help wherever they were needed. Their love for dogs grew to house sitting and walking dogs wherever they might live, especially for family and close friends. Mary had a Christian heart and enjoyed giving advice. And if anyone knew her, you knew that. Miss you, dear Aunt Mary. Trust you are shining like the sun and sharing your infectious laugh. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. And now we'll hear from Claire, Mary's granddaughter, followed by Scott and Kathy.
When I was in university, Nana taught me something that she learned as a mature student, which was how she put together an essay. Essentially, what she would do is write out all her thoughts on sticky notes or pieces of paper, and then after she had gathered them all over a period of time, arrange them in an order that made sense. And that's kind of what I've done in thinking of what to do. And there are a lot of stories that aren't making the cut because we could be up here talking for hours, and I know there are other people who could be talking up here for hours as well, because Nana was full of stories. There's the blanket she made me and discovered how time-consuming it was to crochet a blanket. Never again. There was her love of dogs, which was just talked on. There was the way that I remember her using a napkin as both a bow and a necktie as she dramatized a little story, and on and on and on. But today I'm going to focus on two core memories. The first of which is phone calls with Nana. There was always a bit of trepidation when the phone rang and Nana was on the other end because there went the next hour of your life. Sometimes it would be advice. Some of it was very good advice. Some of it was things that you would graciously accept, but no, that's not something that's going to be right for me. But you always knew either way that she was thinking about you, that she cared about you, and she wanted to make sure that you knew that in whatever way she could. On the other hand, sometimes it would be stories, probably not what she had called you about in the first place, but things would go on a tangent, and before you knew it, an hour once again had passed, but you would learn something about her childhood growing up in Owen Sound in Toronto, like her sister's cutting her hair and how it would never be as long again. Almost opening up a place that served lunch. Campaigning for local office because she was fed up with the incumbent. Working in a hospital, working as in the dentist office, and everywhere and everything in between. Because Nana was full of stories about herself, about her family, about everything. And let me tell you, if I was lucky enough to have an hour free when she called, and especially if I had knitting or something to do with my hands and just listen, there was nothing quite like one of those hours when you would just hear the stories that she had to tell. My other core memory is summers up at the trailer. Right at the beginning of summer vacation, when I was in mid to late elementary school, Nana and Aunt Grace, her sister, would come up with a group of us cousins, all of us girls, and we would spend a couple weeks up there. And if you don't believe that the Williams sisters were cut from the same cloth, my sister's already laughing because she knows exactly which story this is. There was one time that we hold in fond, beloved, bittersweet memory in which Nana and Aunt Grace had the same argument with each other 2 days in a row, and they were on the same side of the arguments. Because that was what time up there was like. It was a lot of talking, again, a lot of stories, a lot of playing games. We would play six-handed euchre. We had 2 teams one summer, and we went out and bought little things. My team had, which was Aunt Grace's team, had big pink velvet bows. The other team, which Joyce was on and Nana was on, had these little leprechaun hats, and if they lost a round, they'd be like, because again, getting into that silliness was part of the spirit of the game and having fun up there. We would also play dominoes, Mexican Train, and we would go for more obscure favorites as well, like the game with no name, which I believe is actually a no-name product, and I'd only put that together in the past year or two looking at the box. We would also eat far too many creamsicles, which Nana said one always tasted like 2. And again, there would be more stories because any time with Nana was a time to listen and learn. And I'll miss those days up at the trailer, just like I'll miss those stories. But maybe it's time to have another creamsicle or 2 and think about Nana. And I'll tell you what, I'll be lucky if I get to tell and share even half as many stories as she did. And I hope I get the chance to in my life.
Well, I just get to come here and stand and just look at all of you. Yes, I'm Kathy. I'm Scott's wife, Mary's daughter. And because she always insisted that you were family, just like I knows that, your sisters. So I was her daughter. And she made a big difference in my life. I take a look at you because you're also dear. You're also dear to Mary's life. I'm looking at Kathy Schenk, who was mentioned already. Mary worked for Kathy, and I just really want to thank you for being here, Kathy. And I know online we have the Corinth congregation. I want to say thank you to all of you at the Corinth congregation. And Dad, they said to tell you that they were sorry for your loss and that they are with you here. I want you to know that Corinth is here because Mary and Ken were part of the Corinth congregation for about 20 years and an important part of that community. So I just really thank you, Corinth. Again, I look here. I'm very blessed because I have one of my best friends in the world, Louise, is here. how do we end up with all of these wonderful people in our lives? How lucky are we to call everyone here family? And some of you are definitely, blood family, and some of you are not. I think my sister is online. She couldn't be here today. But I'm ever so thankful that I have a family that also sends their regards today. And we're sorry that they couldn't be here, but just love that we're part of this family and appreciate that we got a chance to be with Mary and Ken. And to those of you here who knew Mary long before I did, who grew up with Mary. I mean, I'm looking at Pat. Where's Doreen? There's Doreen. It's like these people have grown up together. And just how blessed are we to have people throughout our whole life that are here, that are always here for us. And I'm just thankful. I'm thankful you're here. And as I look at some of the Williams family that is here, the Williams, I'm seeing them go. I want you to know that Mary did you proud. When I would go to family gatherings, I knew that I was with the Williams. And the Williams women, I'm talking to you, Williams women, have a way of really caring and standing up for other people. They just do. If something is going on that's not quite right, the Williams have this gene. They have this gene, and it comes out, and it's a real blessing to other people, and I want you to know that if that comes out in your life, I want you to be proud of it, because you're very, very blessed. I thought when I got up here to speak that there were a few words that I wanted to say about Mary, and one was whimsical. I see some people going, Mary loved whimsical things that you look at and make you smile. If you walked through her house, you saw whimsical things. You saw a bird that was attached on a piece of glass and was flying towards you. You went into the bathroom and there were birds that flew up the wall. And I want you to know that the people who bought the house in Tillsonburg said that they wanted those birds. All right, that's how effective Mary was. She had a big jug that she had that was the shape of a frog, right, Joyce? Was the shape of a frog. And it was just, you looked at it and you laughed. You laughed. Or you go into the bathroom again and there was a soap dish that had a head at one end and legs hanging out the other. Like, she just loved things that were sweet, loved things that were funny, things that brought a smile to your face. And there were some pictures that Dale shared with me this week. And there was one of Mary dressed up as a mouse. And for those people who were here a very long time, there was a dinner here that Mary talked about all the time. And it was from Alice in Wonderland. There was a table. Her table had a theme. And it was the, help me, the what? The Mad Hatter's Tea Party. And every few minutes, they would stand up and change plates. Like they'd have to move around the table. And here she was dressed up as the mouse, and everyone would have been dressed up as something different. Or she loved to talk about the lawn mower. We got oh yeah. Okay, the lawn mower. It's a push mower, and they kept decorating different people started decorating this lawnmower. It had like a bicycle. Do you know the things that you put on the handlebars that hang down? And there were streamers, and there was a bell on it, and just, she loved things like this. She just loved funny little things and doing funny little things. And there's this fabulous picture of her here in this room over here on a tricycle. On a tricycle. And if you want to see joy, that's Mary's face. Joy on this bicycle. And obviously she's competing. Just like, oh, so happy. So when you have something in your life that you can put somewhere that makes people smile, you're a lucky person. You're a blessed person. Do that. Think of Mary. Smile. Another word I think of when I think of Mary is opportunity. She was about giving people opportunities. I just recently heard a quote, and it was from Churchill, and it was, the gist of it was, some people look at an opportunity and see problems. Some other people look at problems and see opportunities. Mary was a person that saw problems, opportunities. She saw the opportunities in the problems, and she solved them, and she went at them, which made her a good person to have on your team, any kind of team, because she didn't let go. If you were someone, especially, who was down and challenged at the moment, she was going to help you. And I know that Pat said that, Arlen said that. That was Mary. And she could make something from nothing. I think of Claire when I think of making something from nothing. The deal girl. Mary was the deal woman. She could see something and she could see how she could use it. That's Claire. Joyce is my whimsical girl. They're like their grandma. They won't let go. And Scott?
Really hard trying to think about what to say about somebody you grow in your entire life with. And I made a bunch of notes, and pretty well everything I have put down, someone has already mentioned or covered. But I'm still going to do it anyways. Okay. When I think of my mother, what really stands out to me is how she's influenced my life and my set of values. And you've heard a lot of this already, but I'm going to talk about it some more. My mother was a very caring and compassionate person. And you've heard how if she could find a solution to something, she would. If not, she would give advice. And sometimes good, sometimes bad, but she was always there and let you know that she was thinking about you and trying to help you with your situation. I can remember once when I was in my early teens, we actually dropped my sister off at senior high camp in Manettville, and the rest of the family went up to Cochrane, and we took the Polar Bear Express to Moosonee. And for me, this was a fantastic trip. It was like nothing I'd ever done before. This real long train ride, which anytime somebody wanted to get on the train, they'd flag it, the train would stop, they'd get on, and you get to Moosonee. And when you're in Moosonee, it's like being on the moon. Everything was totally different. And you had to take a boat ride in what looked like a giant canoe with a motorboat on the back to Moose Factory. And, you tour the buildings and that. I think my mother's main objective in going there was to get a soapstone carving. They were famous for that. You can get soapstone carvings there relatively inexpensively. But when we got there, what was really overwhelming was the abject poverty you saw there. Everything was poor. There was begging all over the place, children begging, and trying to sell whatever they could. My mother wanted to buy a nice soapstone carving. She ended up buying one from a child. It looked relatively the same as like a 4-year-old doing a coloring, crayon picture. It wasn't really much, but she felt she had to help in some way the poverty. And I think for her, this was very much a seminal moment, because her whole life after that, and maybe before that, but I wasn't really aware of it, but she was very much into helping people, particularly those less fortunate who have maybe economic problems, mental problems, in situational problems where they were desperate and didn't know what to do. And we would forever be hearing about how I have my new little friend, then she'd be helping this person, and maybe she'd have a few of these. And some of those became lifelong friends for her, I believe. But she always was helping somebody. And she became engaged with, as you heard, with the society, the Metropolitan Toronto Association for Mentally Retarded Children, as they called it then. Of course, we don't use that phrase anymore, but she was involved with them for fundraising and getting their school here organized, among other things, worked with the Children's Aid, and so on. For her, there is an animated movie called, I believe, Robots, in which they're trying to find a missing inventor. There's a robot, but his slogan was, see a need, fill a need. And that was my mother. She saw a need, she felt that needed to be filled. In her later years, she was very concerned with seniors, because when they needed help, they often didn't know where to go. And we have a myriad of different organizations that deal with different things. It's not like you just phone one phone number and you get the help you need. Some of it's federal, some of it's provincial, some of it has been downloaded from the province to regional governments, municipalities, or county responsibilities. And it's really confusing. Who do you contact when you need help? And she really was trying to get things organized so that there'd be one directory that people could access to find the information they needed. And that was one of the last things I think she was working on. Anyways, she also, as Kathy mentioned, how the Williams had a trait of standing up for what is right. Well, you certainly saw that in my mother. Growing up, we were very much aware of particularly gender disparity, where women really didn't have the same rights as men. I can remember very early on a lot of concern about how women it was not easy for them to own property or to buy something like a car, simply because in order to do any of these things financially, you had to have somebody co-sign with you, because they didn't think a woman was responsible enough, I guess, or could earn enough to pay for these things, which was really ridiculous. If you're a man and you didn't have a job, you might even be able to get a car without any problems, but not a woman. So, this was something that she worked on, and you heard how she was involved with women's ministry in the church here, and later with lay ministry, and working towards women getting into the priesthood, were all things that are very important to her. Trying to find out where I was. I think we kind of went through everything that I had, but I find that when I was working, people would often tell me they admired me because I stood up for what I thought was right. I stood up for what I believed in, and they respected my opinions because they knew that I stood up with good values. And I feel I inherited that from my parents. I see that in my wife, And I'm very proud to see that in my two children, which I think they've inherited down through the family. So I really thank my mother for all that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and just to finish up, Mary did have a deep faith, an absolutely deep faith. And she believed that joining this particular church, you couldn't just join it. It had to be your life, didn't it? You had to dedicate your life to it. And she did. She dedicated her life to it. How wonderful. And just in finally closing, Joyce said to me today, I remember that Nana said this: after you do something really hard, treat yourself.
I'm glad somebody finally used the word faith for Mary. Because as you guys were talking, I was thinking, my parents used to say, when you said something that was a little off color or a little weird, you were suffering from inflammation of the imagination. Some of you may have heard that. And to me, that was never a bad thing. Imagination is something that maybe is lacking today. And whimsical was a good definition for Mary. She had imagination. She didn't know the word no, you can't do that. And to me, Mary walked the walk with Jesus. It's that simple. And when you do that, you don't mind going to marginalized places. You lift up people who need lifting up. You see everyone the same, regardless of gender, color, doesn't matter. And that was Mary in a nutshell. She had the heart of everyone in hers. And if there's ever a theme song, it's this next one. Here I Am, Lord. That was one of Mary's more recent favorite hymns. A song of calling, courage, and faith. It speaks of listening for God's voice and answering with a willing heart and a determination to serve. And as we remember Mary's life of love and service, we hear these words as both her prayer and her legacy. Again, as we hear this hymn, feel free to harmonize as you feel led. Here I am, Lord.
I'm the Lord of sea and sky. I have heard my people cry. All who dwell in dark and sin, my hand will save. I who made the stars of night, I will make their darkness bright. Who will bear my light to them? Whom shall I send? I will go, Lord. will tend the poor and lame. I will set a feast for them. My hand will save. Finest bread I will provide, till their hearts be satisfied. I will give my life to them. Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart, in my heart.
Just want to thank Peter, Mary's nephew, for doing all our audiovisual. We couldn't do this without you, Peter. Thank you for doing that. And all those who joined us online, thank you for being with us today, too. Would you pray with me? God of all creation, with hearts full of gratitude, we return to you now, giving thanks for the life of our beloved Mary. Thank you for the many ways Mary reflected your light in this world, through her kindness, her faith, her laughter, her wisdom, and the reassuring strength of her presence. We are grateful for the love and service she gave so freely, the friendship she nurtured, and the peace she helped to create in the lives of those around her. In her 90 years, she walked a journey of deep purpose and tender grace. And now, as she rests in your eternal care, we give thanks that her spirit is whole and at peace, embraced by your everlasting love. Loving God, though we feel her absence, we know she is not lost to us. There are those who live in your spirit. They are never far. May we carry Mary's legacy forward in how we love, in how we serve, and how we share hope with others. Let your comfort surround all who grieve today. Let your Spirit bring healing in the days to come, and let the memory of Mary continue to bless and guide us. We offer this prayer in deep thanksgiving, and in the name of Christ, the one who is our peace. Amen. For our closing song, a song called To Honor You by Jimmy Scott. It's a gentle and moving tribute to a life well lived. As we remember Mary today, her kindness, her strength, the love she shared with us, this song helps us to express our deep gratitude and lasting respect. It's a moment to reflect, to give thanks, and to honor Mary's beautiful legacy.
To honor you, I wake up every day, take a moment just to pray and hold you in my soul. To honor you, I make time to say thanks for everything I have and everything we knew. I take a chance and risk my heart, hold nothing back and laugh the way you used to do. To honor you, I face up to life's storms and keep your memory warm, ever green and ever new. I light a candle for our love, I do everything for us, I do everything for us. When the day is finally through, I thank God that I knew someone as beautiful as you. All this I do to honor you.
In closing, I wanted to thank each and every one of you on behalf of our family in making this day a great day, and in remembering my mother, that, wow, what a woman, whose legacy will continue on in the hearts of many people, whose legacy will go down in the generations of our family. And it was an honor to know her. It was an honor to learn things from her. It was an honor to watch her in action. And I know that if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have done half of what I have done. For many folks don't know, I've had severe learning disabilities. I don't always talk that great, but she taught me that if you can talk, it doesn't matter. I'm a 3-time cancer survivor, which is why I walk funny. I have lost many body parts, but my mother taught me that it doesn't matter. Last week, my sister-in-law called me because she said, I had a vision. Ron was in my living room. Ron, my husband, died years ago. And he wanted to tell me that he has his arms around me and to keep going because my time is not over yet, which is probably I didn't die of leukemia, which was in 5th stage. But my mother taught me, when you are blessed, you keep going. When you are blessed, you help others. When you're blessed, you love others. And this is the legacy I hope that people carry on, because God knows this is what the world needs right now, is people standing up for people, people loving people, people helping people. Nothing is impossible to do if you just put your mind to the problem and think of the solution. It's always there. And if you're really quiet and meditate, sometimes it comes from the other side. I'm probably one of the few people that have been blessed to remember what heaven was like. And I know my mother is having a wonderful time on the other side. And this is a blessed thing. Anyhow, don't run away. We have a wonderful banquet spread next door. And we wanted to continue on in fellowshipping together.
Kind of mid reality, I guess. I don't
These things we
function totally.
Amen.